And turn your microphones on, please.
Call the September Parks Recreation Committee meeting to order. Start with the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
You want me? Yes. All right.
The name's on there.
Let's make sure we get the names correct.
Mike usually does it, doesn't he? Roll call? Or, okay. Do we have a list of names? Because I don't. Or do you see them?
Yeah, it's on the, if you want to go through the site page 2 at the top where it says roll call.
The names are there?
Page 2, yeah. Yeah, right here.
All right, let's go for the roll call. Mike Moffett,
Here.
Dave Beasold, present. Barbara Tuesley,
Present.
Vanessa Merkel,
Here.
and Lauren Susnick,
Present.
Joe Wiswati,
Present.
Jason Kravitz,
Present.
and Mike Aurelio Liaison.
Here.
Mike O'Shea is not currently here tonight. Mr. Chairman?
The consent, the agenda, the approval of the Park Advisory Committee of the meeting minutes, entertaining motion to recommend approval of the minutes as posted.
So moved.
Motion on the floor. We have a second.
I'll second. Barb Tuesley.
David Beasold made the motion. We have a second by Barb Tuesley. All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay. And it's approved.
5-0 or
It's approved 5-0. Or, yeah, we missed him? No, 5-0. For, under new and old business, to review the agreement for facility needs assessment. Mr. Wiswati, you want to?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. This was brought to the Parks Advisory Committee just to kind of take a look at the scope of the project with respect to the facility needs assessment. This is going back probably to March or even earlier, where this has been kind of proposed as, conceptual plan. But I believe that the plan was recommended by the previous park superintendent. I think it makes sense to get this underway, and I'd like to move this off the committee's plate and over to the council so they can take action on it. I know you guys have had time to kind of look over this. Is there any questions that you might have or any discussion on this?
I had asked a question in an email about did we get multiple bids, and the response was we didn't.
Okay.
And I just want it noted that I don't find a $20,000 fee for a professional to come in and tell us the best facility to use, the best use of it, or how many courts we might need. I actually find the pricing to be quite reasonable. I looked at their rates, and they look very reasonable. And moving forward, if being on this committee, if people are going to ask me to comment on pricing, I would like to see more than one price just to make sure that we're keeping everybody honest. So I don't necessarily have an issue with the dollars that I'm seeing because I find it to be quite reasonable because we could make a mistake and if we try and do it ourselves without a professional, but I would like at least one to two more bids because that's the world I live in.
That raises a good point. I think, we're in September. I think it would be a good idea to maybe put an RFQ out to kind of put the scope of work together and then have that go to the council. It's a good recommendation. Absolutely.
I would also agree with Lauren. That was my feeling as well. I think for anything, it's just good to have three, at least three, just with anything major like that.
I mean, at least put it out for, I have no problem with that, to be honest with you. So I think, you know, from what I've seen of Structure Point, I think they do fine work. But, you know, we're in September. We could have this teed up for the end of October to have it put out.
That is music to my ears. 3 bids, right? You know, compare, contrast, good business practices. I'd love that.
I guess my only concern would be, I don't know Mr. Kennedy. I know that he serves on our, planning commission?
Yes.
Okay, and he's the chairman of
Yeah.
the planning commission. After going to the workshop that we had last week, I would question the ethics of that and conflict of interest, because as the planning commission chairman, he has due knowledge of what's going on. Okay? And I'm not saying his company or he is not the right people, but with not another bid, I would have a problem.
Just look, it
Doesn't look good.
Right,
The
right. I
optics-
totally
the- the optics
agree.
are not
I think,
good,
I
okay?
think it would be fair to have it put out in an RFQ. Again, this was a recommendation, if you kind of look at the information that we've got originally. This was actually recommended way back in March. So there was discussions before we had this and before it even came to the council, so.
I love
think
the
it's a
fact
good
that he's,
idea,
well, I
though.
love the fact that he's a St. John resident, so
Yeah.
we know that the town's best needs will be it. But at the same token, he also answers to someone.
Right.
Okay, and having conceptual knowledge as the planning commission, and there again, I have no qualms about it.
I mean,
just-
if they're the only guys that put in, then so be it. At least it was an open and honest
Correct.
process.
Correct.
But I guess after having that workshop here last week, in my mind, that would be a little bit of a red flag based on the information that I received, and you were there, and a few other people were there.
Yeah.
You know, as far as a question, I mean, if we're gonna have an ethics,
Right.
part
Well,
of
and,
it,
and
clause.
understand that, you know, with respect to that, I mean, he's not a principal of the organization, so
understand.
it's not something I don't think he would be working specifically on the project, but to avoid that conflict of interest, so.
okay, no problem. That's all I had.
Yeah.
So if you want a motion to put it out to bid, is that?
No, I
what
think,
we're-
I think that's just the best course of action, and we know we're not looking for any formal action by the committee. I think that's how we're gonna proceed
Guess
with
you're
it.
gonna give them, give
Yeah.
the
Advice,
town manager and the parks superintendent direction to
Yeah.
get you 2 more bids, at least,
You want that in the form of
Well,
a
and then
motion?
the bids will go to the council,
to the council.
yeah.
Okay.
So you said no formal action, so we just move on to the next?
I mean, I think we got consensus from
So-
the committee that.
Do you want a recommendation from
I
us?
would be very comfortable, them coming back to the advisory board and getting a recommendation before it goes to the council. I prefer that even. If you got the bids and you guys look it over and and then give a recommendation to the council, I'd prefer it that way, if that was okay with others.
I just don't know timing wise if we're gonna meet before the council.
I think-
And still, because
Not in a
we
huge
got,
hurry, I don't think.
the thing is then we're gonna have to start putting out the impact fee RFQ too. Because that's gonna have to get teed up for the early part of next year to get started. It's gonna take a little time, but it needs to be done timely. So just a thought.
Think that through.
I mean, we'll put the RFQ together based on the scope of work that was defined in the, original conception of this, so. And we'll get it done, and at least we'll have an open and honest process, so. Who knows, maybe they'll bid less.
Maybe
Maybe
I
it'll be
just think
19,000.
it's good business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, and so I will then present a motion that the advisory committee wait till we get multiple bids, 2 or 3, that we can assess, and before we give them our recommendation.
Okay. That's fair.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're clear, because we're saying we want 2 or 3 bids, or we're saying we're going to put an RFQ out, because there is the reality that only one person might answer the RFQ.
And that's fine
as
if it
well.
is, yeah.
So, okay, so we might not get 2 or 3 bids.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, you may only get one responding, but
Correct.
it may be Structure Point, so.
Right.
I mean, hopefully that's not the case. Obviously, we'd, make sure that it's advertised out there, so.
So do we have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, that was my motion, that we, as an advisory committee, that we wait until we see if there's multiple bids, so that we can assess them and make a true recommendation to the council.
I'll second that motion. I can't second it either.
No.
I'll second that motion, Lauren Sostek.
You can't-
You just sit here and look pretty.
I just got sitting up here nervous the whole time. So we have a motion, you made the motion, who seconded it?
Lauren Sostek.
And we have a, I didn't hear her name. What was her name?
Lauren Sostek,
Lauren
second.
Sustek. Sustek. I'll get it one of these days.
That's okay.
You have to take a vote on it.
Yeah, all in favor signify with an aye.
We have to roll call
Aye.
this, or?
Aye.
No?
Just deny.
Aye.
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 Aye. Not in favor with an A, or opposed with an A. And it passes 5-0. Next, bit of business, possible disc golf course review.
Yeah, so Mike included this as part of the, your packets, and I know there was a couple of other, or there was another site is identified with respect to that. So the one was at the, at Heartland Park, there was another one that was discussed about.
Lake Hills?
Lake Hills as well, so, I don't know if, has anyone had an opportunity to review all of that, and what are your thoughts on that?
I have, and personally, the Lake Hills location looks like it's just more friendly to the course. You're not having to cross the street, which was one of my biggest concerns with the Heartland Park location. The Lake Hills flow, it just makes more sense when I look at it, my opinion.
I mean, I don't know necessarily think that this is gonna get completed this year, so, I mean, but I know he wants to get the project kind of teed up. No pun intended. No.
I really like the Heartland Park, that's like my favorite, but you're dealing with baseball
Yes.
and girls softball. And that whole area around.
And hockey and gymnastics.
Well, it's not that so much, but yes, you're absolutely right. The
But I mean,
traffic-
just the flow of people.
But the flow near the girls softball and the Babe Ruth field, where I can't tell what hole it is, 7, I think. I think it's number 7. Like, there's always people right there, always cars and everything. I just think that was gonna be the issue there, and crossing the street. So my preference is, taking that in effect as the Lake Hills one. That's just my opinion.
I also preface the Lake Hills Park.
You want to make a recommendation that would be our recommendation to them?
Can.
Okay. Barb Tuesday, I'd like to make a recommendation that the,
I mean, I don't know if you guys had seen the memo that he put in here. I mean, I know he said that, his personal preference obviously would be the Heartland Park location, but again, he identified the logistical issues on there, but
it seems awfully busy.
yeah,
that park
yeah.
does.
So I mean, and he did state in here that I just kind of reiterating what he stated in here.
It's-
So-
and having them do, the kickball golf at the Sherwood Golf Course on the 9 holes, it's a pain. So I could see people who were playing baseball being a little concerned about having that type of activity along with their activity.
From what he noted in here, it looked like he was wanting us to let him know if this is something
Which
that
way
we're
to go.
considered.
Right.
Is this what we're gonna consider? Is this something we want to do? Do we
Right.
wanna move on with this?
Oh, yes.
And if we do, he wants to contact the company again, the
And
Pro
then
Disc
just kind of
Golfer.
move forward. So it's not, we're not making a final decision or anything like that. It's just.
Just basically, we want
He wants some direction on that.
to recommend moving further with the plan. Or do we just wanna say we don't like the idea?
Barb Tuesday, I'll make a recommendation that we do go forward on that project.
I'll second that. Vanessa Merkel.
We have a motion on the floor by Barb Toozley and a second by Vanessa Merkel. All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a no. And it passes 5-0. Next one, item C, park budget information for 2022.
Yeah, so he sent out the information with respect to the parks budget information. You guys all receive all of that, so, yeah, basically, you know, I think there, a lot of the appropriations, the bigger ones, obviously, the skate park and Founder's Park appropriations are part of the, you know, the big ticket items that were this fiscal year. So those will drop off into the next fiscal year. So, so I don't know if you guys had any specific questions on the parks budget stuff.
To me, going to be up to the council, you know, and their.
Right, so the council,
Than-
yeah.
Than ours, you know.
Yeah, the council will be having a, just so you know, a public hearing on the budget, so that will be the 12th of October, scheduled for the 12th of October. And then, you know, we'll be moving forward with that. So the recommendations that were included in the parks budget were from the park superintendent. He provided us, you know, what he's looking for, what kind of, you know, staffing assistance he's looking for as well, so.
Anything further on that? All right, moving on to item D, possible backyard outdoor ice skating rink at Civic Park. Mr. Rizzotti?
Yeah, so this was something that he brought up, and I thought this would be obviously something good for the Parks Committee to kind of look through. I don't know if you guys had obviously a chance to take a look at all that information. Any questions or comments? Because I guess he's looking for some direction on how to go with this.
One thing you do have to take into consideration on that is that the liability insurance of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, you know, and
But is that covered with our skate park liability too?
Well,
Or is it a separate issue?
The park itself obviously is covered with our liability insurance, so it's not anything that we're going to need additional insurance coverage for, but because it's only a temporary thing, it's not like all year anyway. But
an inflatable type thing that they put.
yeah, it's some kind of, if you will, some kind of a durable tarp thing that they kind of inlay, and then it gets filled up. So as it's cold out, obviously it's usable. You know, as opposed to going into the skating arena, you know, this would be more for like your everyday kind of skater just wanting to kind of, you know, get out and have fun. So
I did not see that line item in his budget. In the thought pattern that might be part of.
but I think
Moving forward.
I think he's thinking about having that out of this year's budget.
Okay.
So I don't think it's in the 23 fiscal year budget.
Because it would be a reoccurring.
Right.
But it's not a actual structure, so there's not probably a lot of money involved.
Right. So to his point, no, it's not a reoccurring cost. It's
Right.
just it's a one-time cost.
To get all the boards and all that stuff.
Right.
I really like the idea.
I do too.
I remember as a kid, like, always, you know, going somewhere they played ice for Munster.
I had to go play in a
Me
ditch,
too,
so
I
yeah.
love that. I love doing that.
They
have
had
an ice
the
arena.
community park where they'd flood that over that little heating
Yeah.
room there. We could go in.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't have that, we were always on the ponds. Well, I mean, technically,
It's not too safe.
can't do that.
Right,
at the
right,
same time.
yeah, right.
I
So-
just kept falling down, so it wasn't for me.
I like the idea too. I just, it's lit. I think that we have to come up, like with the skating park, we have to come up with some sort of basic rules of use, because you're gonna get people that wanna figure skate. You're
Right.
gonna get people that wanna play hockey. So, I mean, there's going to have to be some blockouts or
Right.
days or something along them lines so that the hockey players and the figure skaters aren't,
Can go from this time to this time or
correct,
something, yeah.
aren't getting mixed in and, you know, because.
So that's something that could be
That's a
developed, I
great
think,
idea.
maybe for next month and recommend it back to Mike to, you know, get
Right.
those developed.
But the concept, I mean, it's great. I mean, because it's lit, so I mean, the time frame can go on for a while.
Something to do in the winter to keep the kids off the street.
I'd like to entertain a motion moving forward with that project. Mike, to look into it, or however you want to word it. Anybody?
I'll make a motion that we, continue to look into possibilities and of having the backyard outdoor ice skating rink at Civic Park.
We have a motion on the table from Barb Tousley. we
I'll
have a
second it. No.
Did you
Oh,
second?
I'll second it. Lauren Sustek.
Second by, is Vanessa, right?
Lauren Sustek.
Lauren Suspect. With the second. All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed with an A. And it's carried 5-0.
If I ever say bite you instead of I, please.
What's
please,
that?
If I ever say bite you instead of I, it's nothing. When we do the Lions thing, that's what we say, because that's what the lion.
I thought I was doing something wrong.
No.
The next order of business,
You know what?
under 5, letter E, miscellaneous items.
3 pages, I think it
Is it in here?
Yeah.
I don't know if I got it. I have Old Founders Park, sure. Happy to do
Where are
that.
we at with Founders Park, Joe? Are we about done?
Actually, I was over there today. They are doing some final planting, just to kind of give everyone an update on Founders. They're doing the pour in place, I believe, tomorrow, so that'll be done. They're wrapping up pretty well now, so I would expect that they'll be final here within the next week. It's an absolute beautiful park. I'm finally glad it's nearing its end. It's been the park that, you know, never ends. But finally we're seeing the end. Has anyone been out there? I know, Mike, you've been out there, but yeah, if you get an opportunity, right on Parish Avenue, it's a beautiful park. I've stopped there throughout the summer, just to kind of watch I'll call it progress, but watch the progress of the park since I started here, and I'm glad it's getting done. It's definitely a long overdue process, but I'm glad it's finally getting done.
And what about gates? Will we finish that by the end of the year? The playground side of it?
Yeah, so that too, the one of the things that they're waiting on is the pour in place, which is the same contractor that's doing
Right.
both of those. So those will probably get wrapped up relatively quick. They did do some landscaping in the gates playground area. Added some trees and added a little berm and whatnot there. So it looks really, really good. I know that I ran into a couple of parents out there and that were very excited about, seeing that come. The kids love it. I mean, they've already started playing on some of the playground equipment over at Founders, which, it's not officially open. But, how are you going to tell a kid, no, you can't go play on that?
And do you know, I know with the previous Parks board, that they had kind of bantered about, maybe Mike can answer to that, on the actual equipment. Do you know if that ever got voted on and approved as far as the actual playground equipment?
What do you mean, the playground?
Remember, they had about 4 or 5 different,
Oh, the different color schemes and stuff
well,
like that.
not just the color
Yeah.
schemes, but some of the special needs.
Yes, they did. I think you
Stuff.
guys did finalize everything on that.
Everything
Yeah.
Okay, so
should be in place already
that
for
should
both of
not-
those
Everything's
parks.
That's-
installed
okay.
and they're using it.
Yeah,
I'd say both of them are in.
yeah.
Okay,
It's just
well, I
waiting for the
I know there was some questions and
There were
some
different
site-
types of swings,
Correct.
different things we're looking at. Some of those things were very
Okay.
expensive.
Right,
Some were
exactly.
very expensive.
So we were trying to find something in the middle that would work for,
But we did,
For being
they
accessible
did
and everything.
finalize that so that we do
Yeah,
have,
that
we're
was-
not waiting on someone to make a decision on
The-
where we're headed there.
the previous park board's last meeting, they finalized that part.
Yeah.
I mean, it was done.
That was done, yeah.
No, I think that was their last bit of business.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, so with respect to the Gates Playground, the skate park, and now Founders Park, we have had inspections on all of those. Those have been permitted by the town, so obviously there's no cost for the permit, but the town permitting these projects allows us to perform the inspections to make sure that the equipment's safe, make sure that everything was done. There have been several issues in terms of, stuff that, wasn't quite right. We had to work out with the engineer on a couple of these things and a couple of the installations on some of these projects. But all in all, everything has been really good. The response from the contractors have been really good with the town. Nothing really earth-shattering, just, some minor stuff that came up during the process. We did have to have some of the concrete basically tore back up because it wasn't quite thick enough. So they had to tear that up and re-pour part of the concrete. You know, it's just one of those things that it was begun prior to the process of getting a permit. But it's best practices for the towns, especially to comply with, you know, planning and zoning code. So stuff like this ought to have gone, you know, to the planning and zoning, or not necessarily zoning, but to the planning commission. So that way compliance with the you know, subdivision control ordinance, stuff like that. Just, you know, it should have been, you know, considered as part of that process. But, you know, I think going forward, I mean, we're not going to go ahead and rehash the past. I think what happened in the past was the past, and I think we just need to move forward on this point. So, so that's the short of the long of what's going on with the Founders and Gates Park. So I don't know, is there anything else on that,
Yeah,
Mike?
so I wouldn't mind going through a few items as well, so I
Okay.
appreciate it. And I would like to reiterate that as well. I do want to kind of point out and talk about those projects in summer. So the skate park, it really got built, you know, in record time and, you know, on budget. And so that, you know, thankful to the contractor, did a great job. Also, we ran it through building and planning, and also, you know, so Sergio's office went out and inspected that and made sure things were running along smoothly. And those are important for our departments to work together. So that is a change and improvement. Also with Founders Park, that got picked up in the middle, but also I want to also thank the town manager and so Joe and Sergio's office as well. There was many challenges over the last months with that park, Founders Park, and they worked through them, and that project is going to be done soon. So, so I want to thank them and you know, point out that there are going to be nice completed projects in a model kind of how we're going to move forward with those. Pivoting to recreation. So next summer. So summer of 2023. So we experimented last summer with doing a concert on Fridays, a Friday concert series, and doing it with Malt Brothers. So that was successful. So we're going to expand on it this year. So we're going to do several of those nights. So it looks like we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 of them. So 5 or 6 different nights where we'll have a nice band, a higher quality band, and we'll have Malt Brothers, so we'll have, you'll have a wine and beer garden and food, and so if people want, and that's gonna be from 6 to 9 o'clock p.m., and that'll be Friday nights. So the families or anybody would like to come out and enjoy that, we're gonna expand on that. And I really think that those will be self-sustaining financially. So the one in the concert in the park we had in Lake Hills, basically what we sold, our income from the concessions basically covered the band. So it didn't cover Public Works or some of those, but what we paid for the band, our concessions paid for that. So it was a net, there was no cost to the taxpayer. So on those items. Also, we're going to have a couple of, we're going to expand on the movies in the park. You know, Mike had planned on that. And maybe we should talk about Freedom Fest, setting a date. We haven't set a date for that, but it's never too early. That's a big lift. What date to aim at? I think that we are tentatively aiming at July 3rd. What would be the pleasure of the Parks Commission on that date? What is your thoughts on that?
Can we discuss that? Okay.
What?
First, July 4th, a lot of people go away. Personally don't, but a lot of people do. There's a lot of other things around. Are we looking for the St. John people, or are we looking for the larger area to come into it? Because there's a lot of things going on for July, the weekend of July 4th.
So I would say first for our residents, and then of course, if other
Yeah.
other people want to enjoy it, great. So what we did find out last year when we looked into it, July 3rd, pretty much no one around us was doing anything. That's kind of why we picked that
I think
date.
Cedar Lake does.
Let's see,
Yeah.
but not Dyer, not Cherville.
Right.
So they were the only ones. So it made it for, that's why we picked that date. And there was, the other ones seemed to all be picked over. You know,
Right.
Cherville had it, Dyer had something. So that's kind of why we aimed at that. And you're right, a lot of people go on vacation, but it was still packed. And it grew substantially from the year before.
And St. John the Evangelist has their parish festival from the 6th through the 9th of July, and that coincides with the way that their carnival contractor, it's just their availability to handle
Sure,
that.
and we don't want to compete with theirs. We'll like to complement it, of course,
Right.
right? So we don't want to compete with that.
I mean, so I guess the 3rd would be an option. Conversely, if you wanted to pick like a Friday, Saturday, obviously like the 14th, 15th might work. We celebrate freedom every day, so obviously Freedom Fest could fall whatever day, but
July
So
3rd.
maybe pull out your calendars.
Yeah, July 3rd is a Monday,
yeah.
so.
I like the 2nd or the 3rd just because I went to the fest last year, in July, and it was a 4th of July fest for me, you know what I mean? So it was like to do it a
Fireworks in the
different
morning, yes.
weekend.
Right. I think the 3rd would make more sense, only because you could have that afternoon or that evening, and then the next day's the holiday, so you're not
Right, so
you're not messing that
You're
up.
off work, right? So
See, I
that
would-
is the
You could
problem,
indulge,
right? So-
I'll say this, you
I-
could
I-
indulge a tad bit more than you would normally.
I would
Well,
I would
right.
disagree with that because I don't think there's that many people that will be off on the 3rd.
No, but I'm not saying it has to be like
They-
an all-day thing. It
you're
could be
right.
from like 5
There'll
to
be-
10 or
Had
whatever.
to start later.
Yeah.
Right. I think a Sunday like we had last year actually works better because most people have that day off. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You do,
yeah.
but then you're there to like, I see my, I'm like,
But the holiday was on a Monday.
I'm getting
Correct.
old, so
Next year.
I'm up
So
till
it made
11
sense to
o'clock
have it on a
hurting, right?
Sunday.
So-
No, I
You're
don't,
young.
I don't disagree, but
I'm
I'm just talking about people, I mean, then you would have to start it at a later time because there will be people that will have to work
Right.
on July 3rd.
And there'll be some people who are off too, so even if it's a 2 or a 3 o'clock, I mean, you were gonna get different groups.
Right.
I'll bring my kids there during the day earlier, and then maybe I'll get a sitter and I'll go there at
Many
night,
companies will
so.
give it the day off because they're just gonna throw it away, because people aren't gonna work hard anyway, so you
I mean,
might as well.
holiday on a Tuesday? Who
And
cares?
this
You
year,
might as well give you a
it
Monday
didn't
off
really
too.
get going until what? I mean, I know it started at 3, but when did it really get going?
5, 6
Five.
o'clock.
Yeah, 5, 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
right? So if you had good food where, and I know what you mean, I do, because I'm going to be working on the 3rd myself, so.
Correct.
So,
Although you're gonna have to take part of that day off, you know that.
that's right, well, I'll work half a day.
I do have a question about the fest and just the expectations of us as the advisory committee, from the town or from parks. Are we supposed to be involved with it then, or, I mean, okay, I just
We
want to.
expect you to put in at least 80 hours of volunteer hours.
And
I
then
like
recruit at
doing
least
this
80
stuff.
people.
I'm just wondering if we're like gonna be able to be involved in it. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense for the
I think what, would hit me, I would imagine it would be you guys spearheading it, the event, and then, of course, pull as many willing volunteers as possible, because it doesn't need a lot of them. So it's kind of all hands on deck, but, really the driving force will be your committee.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to discount what the EDC did. Obviously, they did a fantastic job getting everything done logistically, and hopefully they can help out as well.
And use the EDC to get the sponsorships. There's a lot to do here. So, right, so chasing a sponsorship, so they, I think we got, was it 17,000 in sponsorships, something like that?
Pretty close. I think it was maybe 16, but yeah.
Something like that. So wouldn't it be nice if we can get substantially more, maybe get another 50% on top of that?
And I think honestly, with the success of the last one, I think it'll be much easier to get the
Exactly,
sponsorships
first
this year.
year
Yeah.
is, the second year is,
Yeah. And hopefully we can actually cover the entire expense out of the sponsorships this time. So I think it can be done.
That would be great. That'd be wonderful.
any motion for anything?
I think you're trying to figure out, is there a day that we can all agree on, or does the 3rd not work for anybody, or do we think
I
that's a
don't
good
know.
day?
Third sounds just as good
Yeah, so maybe the
as-
date and the time to start it, right? So that would be the two crucial.
Huh?
Crucial.
I'll make a motion that we choose July 3rd, 2023.
Same time, like 3
Time?
o'clock or something, or?
Yeah, do we need to set a time now for it?
I would. What if I guess you can always go back and change it. I would set a time. Why not?
3 o'clock, 3 p.m.
We have a motion on the floor to have the Freedom Fest on July 3rd, starting at 3 o'clock. All in favor signify with an aye.
Do we have a second?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I guess we need a second. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Thank you.
I'll second it, Lauren Sustek.
We have a second by Laura. All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed with an A.
Nay.
And it carries 4-1.
And name Dave is the name.
Okay, and Dave Beazold is the nay.
Question on the summer concert series, though, if we can go back to that really fast. With Malt Brothers doing the food and drinks, is there an agreement with them because we get the money from concessions? Is there, do they split it with us, or is I heard you say that we made it back with concessions. So.
He's donating it back. It's
Oh,
not like
nice.
there's an agreement to do that. It's just he's donating that money back.
Okay.
He is. So I wouldn't be against formalizing that process. The reason why, my understanding is why he was donating it back, it was just a cleaner mechanism to use.
Right, if you're gonna do
Doing a
a
bunch of
situation where you're gonna work an agreement with him, and it's gonna be an ongoing thing, then I would definitely recommend, that it get formalized in some kind of agreement approved by the council.
Yeah, I think, right, because now it seems it's gonna, if it takes off, I wouldn't be against that. Maybe, would it be reasonable to start the process here and vet it out and kind of put the structure together and then bring it to the council?
I don't
What's the
think there'd
best-
be anything wrong with that, but, I mean, you've got plenty of time to get it done and formalized, but obviously, I'd wanna make sure that it is formalized.
That is, I mean, donating it back is one thing because he gets to write it off as a tax deduction. Let's understand this. If we make this type of an agreement, is the legal tax break still the same? I'm not a tax.
Those are answers that need to be, that's a
I'm
good
not,
question.
the tax lawyer by any stretch, but, we have to look at somebody doing something for us nice. They're getting something out of it, and we're getting something out of it. It has to work both ways, or there's no real reason for them to be there. Of course, it's advertisement, but still.
They're a for-profit visit, right? So if they
Well,
want to
they're a
continue.
for-profit business,
Yeah.
right? I presume they
They're
carry
profitable.
the liquor license for that day.
Right, so they would also have to obtain the liquor licenses and all that, so,
That's right.
Mike's been very diligent about making sure that gets done.
So I guess we need to, I'd like to, maybe wait till next month and then to discuss with people legally, what is if they give us so much, a percentage of it and stuff is, you don't want to take advantage of somebody who's, being good to you.
Right.
And what are those ramifications, legalities to it.
Makes sense.
We have anything else on miscellaneous items? I see he put in here the park impact study that we were talking about. I also see he put it on Larimer Park, the new backstop has been installed. They're now planning on working on the current ball field to bring the playing surface back to the recreational level. Also, the wood pavilion will be painted. Once the pavilion is painted, the Lancer Park would be next. I think that's the last thing on the miscellaneous that we
Yeah,
have.
and then he also had some recommendations, possibly for next year to put netting up in some of the pavilions, so that way there's no bird issues in some of these, so, which I thought was a pretty good idea, so.
Moving on to the next order, number 6, reports and correspondence from town manager.
Yeah, the only thing I had to report is that we will have our budget hearing on October 12th at 7 PM. And that's all I have.
Next, town council liaison, Mr. Aurelio.
I think we kind of covered all my report within our discussion, so, yeah, I appreciate the good discussion on that.
Then from the advisory committee, does anybody have anything? Yeah, no. Number 7, public comment. See anybody out there? Any and all, anybody have anything else? We go to the order. Like entertain a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
A motion on the floor by, I forgot his name already, Mr. Beazold. Do we have a second? David Beazold.
Barb Tuesley, I'll second it. Can I ask everybody from taking minutes at a board meeting? If you say your name first, it's easier when they do minutes.
That's easier for me to remember.
It's easier.
We have a suggestion and a second on the floor from Barbara. All in favor to adjourn, signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed with